Okay. So we've got some big news coming in as far as the English camp is concerned. Not just India, by the way, as far as injury concerns go, there was a certain injury concern in the English camp as well. As far as India go, you already know who those two players are who are going to be missing out. But that one player over whom there was an injury, sort of a concern and a worry looming large. And now that we're getting to know from the English camp, it's that one player who, as things stand, doesn't look like he's going to be playing the second test match because he's not officially been ruled out, but credible reports telling us at the moment that Jack Leach, the spinner, is not going to be taking part. Remember, he bruised his left knee in the first test match, still came on even though it didn't appear at one point that he would probably be coming out to bowl in the second innings, but probably a heavy strapping and some good physiotherapy that he possibly got in the innings break and overall when India were batting out there. Perhaps has ensured now, it did ensure back then that he comes out to bowl in the second innings, but now it doesn't quite look like he is fit enough to come out to bowl in Vizag, and what a hammer blow that is. We'll talk about what those matchups could be, but Shane, going forward, the fact that when the series started, you were looking at Jack Leach as the leader of the attack as far as spin bowling department goes. Yes, Hartley did very well in that first innings, but it is still a body blow for England. Hartley is just one test match old.
Absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, to add to the point which you were making, first off, it wasn't just the knee bruise that you're referring to because he picked that up first. Then, while sliding around on the field, ended up picking up another knock. So it was two blows on the same leg that pretty much ensured that he had to be bowling in the second innings with a lot of heavy strapping. I remember there were credible reports doing the rounds at that point as well that said he may not bowl at all. Yeah. That didn't turn out to be true. But what I've also been reading is that apparently he didn't train much during England's training session today. Yeah. He spent most of his time getting his knee treated. So if it does in fact happen that he's not playing, and we'll get to know tomorrow for sure because England always do tend to announce their playing 11s on the eve of the test match, then it's not going to be that much of a shock because again the strapping was heavy. Even when he was, I don't think I recall seeing him field much in the last game. Yeah. So you're going to be going in a sense with your most experienced spinner being Joe Root, who's not even a full-time spinner, and if you bring in Shoaib Bashir, which seems to be the likely thing at this point, that means your spin bowling lineup is going to have a combined amount of 3 tests match experience.
Yeah, it's going to be
Bashir's debut. Hartley's played 1 test and Rayan's played 2 tests.
2 tests, exactly. So again,
3 tests.
That again, it'll be very interesting how India then copes up with this spin bowling attack. You had question marks over this attack even in the first test match, but let's not try and remind ourselves of what happened in Hyderabad. But going forward, what could then the matchups be like? Let's talk about that. But if this bowling lineup is to look like, and as Brendan McCullum has already hinted and Shane's already done a video on that, do check that out, about the fact that if it is ranked turners that you're going to be dishing out, then England aren't going to be thinking twice or going to be brave enough rather to field 4 full-time spinners
plus Joe Root.
Plus a Joe Root. Now, if we are to go by that theory that yes, there is a ranked turner that's going to be dished out, and then you're looking at a replacement for somebody like a Jack Leach, there is only a Shoaib Bashir you could then turn to. What does the spin bowling attack then look like? Yes, there's an off spinner in Bashir that you get. There's Hartley, who's left arm leg spin that you get, the left arm off spin, and then you've got
orthodox. Yeah.
Then you've also got Rehan Ahmed, who's conventional leg spin. You'll have Joe Root's conventional off spin, and you're looking at that, and Bashir will then be your add-on bowler over there.
Your off spinner, another off spinner.
Off spinner. Now talking about how India could then contend with this bowling attack. So 4 spinners plus a Joe Root.
I mean, it'll be 3 spinners now, right? Because Leach is not going to be playing.
Yeah. So yeah, 3 spinners and a Joe Root. Yes, of course. Brendan McCullum earlier hinting that yes, but this was prior to
Leach's news coming out. So now I don't think they're going to be playing with. See, he said 4 spinners because he meant his 4 full-time spinners.
Full-time spinners and a Joe Root, which meant 5 spinners. 5 spinners. So now you're going to be looking at 4 spinners, not out and out 3, and a Joe Root. But having said that, how could India now tackle with this particular situation? Because remember, when we were making the playing 11s, you were looking at somebody like an Aksar, somebody like
Washington
Yashasvi,
Sundar, remember?
Washington Sundar, all these left-handers basically helping India out as far as countering the off-spin options of England are concerned. Now, having said that, Now, if there is an off spinner in the ranks, are you then going to be confident enough and field, let's say, two right-handed batters in a Sarfaraz and Rajat Patidar? Remember, when you were talking about matchups, you wanted a left-hander in Washington Sundar, not just because of his all-round ability, but you were also looking at him in terms of countering the off-spin that will be on offer, let's say, from somebody like a Shoaib Bashir, somebody like a Joe Root. Of course, you were looking at that particular scenario, but now that you won't really have the threat of a leg spin option in Jack Leach, and of course, ball coming into the right hander, you want that to be a more desired, let's say, a matchup than, let's say, the ball going away from a left hander in Washington Sundar. How do India now go forward with this? Does India's psyche now change, Shane, or we're looking at no, India sticking to their own strength and not looking at the opposition 11 at the moment?
Look, they always look at the opposition, and that's a fair way of planning. I think if you had to go with convention, and we had picked our 11 yesterday on the dugout, and we said that, bringing in a Washington, you needed a Washington Sundar, as Ritesh Devnani is pointing out in the comments, to counter both Leach and Hartley. But now there's no Leach. So, do you need the extra left-hander? Because already, even without bringing in a Washington Sundar, you would potentially be having Yashasvi. You'd have Akshar as two left-handers anyway. So, do you then want another left-hander there? I'm not too sure. You might potentially look to bring in another right-hander, and that means potentially you could be seeing you could be loading up your batting and only going with four proper bowlers, which means you're seeing two debutants. You could go that way because, again, you have two right-handers. It then does give you the option of, let's say, countering their off-spin option. Because, again, what happened last time around is that you had so many left-handers and they were getting bogged down by the off-spinner, the right-hand off-spinner. Now, you don't really need to worry about countering that, because if you have to counter that, then you just need to load up your batting. Will you go that way, especially when you consider, though, that both of them are debutants? See, you have to play one debutant, that goes without saying, because again, there's not going to be a KL Rahul, there's no Virat Kohli, there's no Jadeja. So you need one debutant in there for sure, because KL was Virat's replacement, and now KL's gone. You need one debutant anyway. Are you going to be brave enough to, let's say, bring in another right-hander? Akash Bhardwaj pointing out that there's a Dhruv Jurel, but Akash, I don't think you're playing him as a pure batter.
Exactly.
You're not going to do that. He's competing with a spot for Bharat, and I don't think you're dropping Bharat. So...
And also, you've gone back to Bharat. Remember, Bharat was not picked in the West Indies, and you thought that his time was up after the BGT and the one test match that he played, which was the WTC final. But you've gone back to Bharat, and truth be told, he was a very good wicket keeper. May not have been a very good batter, let's say, in that first test match, but his wicket keeping skills were definitely right up there. And I don't think you're looking at making too many changes. This, by the way, would then mean an unforced change, let's say. You're looking at a couple of forced changes anyways. You're not looking at too much tinkering. Also, what kind of a message does this send across to the opposition camp? Forced changes, again, you sort of understand, even as opposition, you don't read too much into it. But then if you change too much, that too, let's say India, who at the start of the series were touted to probably, clean sweep the opposition or teach baseball a lesson. There's all of those theories that were doing the rounds at the start. But do you want to be making too many changes and then, send across a message that, all is not right in the house, there's panic in the house now? Maybe that's not the message that you want to be conveying at the moment. If you were to go 2-0 down, maybe the surfaces change, maybe the team composition changes, who knows, but not at the moment.
I think surfaces are going to change either which way, so it depends on how you want to, let's say, go about with it. You're going to have the extra off spinner to deal with, because now you have two right hand off spinners. So Root is going to be bowling a lot. We know that. And of course, now Bashir will have to take on some of the extra load, because again, there's no Leach. Previously, if you were going to go with the 5-spin theory, if one spinner wasn't doing as well, or rather more importantly, say there were two right-handers batting, then you didn't need to really go to the off-spinner, only for a change option if nothing is working out. Then you'd have potentially stuck with the two left-hand orthodox spinners and Rehan Ahmed, who will of course take it away from a right-hander. Now, I think, with England, I don't really know. See, they are pretty clear with their plans.
Yeah.
What will India do is a really good question, because you're talking about panicking and not panicking. I mean, this is a team we were discussing that we've seen the nature of pitches change when you lose one match. And if we go not so far back in history, 2021 T20 World Cup, you lost to Pakistan. Come the second game against New Zealand, you were fielding an entirely different batting lineup, because you pushed Rohit down to number 3, and I don't remember what all was going on there. It was chaos. It was not good. But I think if you're doing that, if you want to make those changes, I don't think it really weakens your batting. You know why? Because you're playing two pure batters, and then you only are playing with four bowlers anyway. Sure, both of them are debutants, but I mean, they're not going to be, maybe they're not going to be under that much pressure. I don't know. You could go that way. I'm just saying now the option seems more appealing because two off spinners, if you have three left handers potentially contending against two off spinners, then I think there will be issues and you'll see matchups really come into play. I mean, this is a team, an England team we know are into matchups.
You're looking at, I'm just trying to compare, let's say, this Dravid Rohit era with, let's say, the Kohli Shastri era. The approach is different, Shane. When you talk about matchups, this isn't really an era which buys into matchups as much as we saw in the previous era, I would say, which is what makes me think at the moment if this India team is looking too much into matchups at the moment. Because remember, we were talking about matchups at the WTC final as well, but what did we do? We didn't play a Ravichandran Ashwin where we really should have, and there were loads and truckloads of left-handers in that opposition batting lineup. We didn't do that. So again, that's one of the things that comes to my mind as to how Rohit and sort of Dravid look into matchups. Also at the moment for India to, yes, after that match in Hyderabad, you'd like to believe that again it was one of those instances where you felt even somebody batting at number 8 isn't good enough at times to win you matches. It's exactly the theory and the psychology you had in mind in the World Cup as well. Again, let's say a bitter reminder being dished out here in Hyderabad that even 8 may not be able to do the job. But I think this Indian team just does get that comfort from somebody batting at number 8, and which is why I think you could persist with an all-rounder in Washington Sundar, and he may be your choice, even though the matchups really will not make sense. And maybe this gives you more confidence, let's say getting somebody like a Sarfaraz who has a good domestic record. So maybe you can play both Sarfaraz and Rajat Patidar together. Again, a combination which doesn't or wouldn't have seemed as likely, let's say, at the start. But now, perhaps it should, if you were to ask me, this could be a thing, because look at the experience, let's say. Again, you talked about experience at the start, but who's replacing Jack Leach at the moment? Here comes in a bowler who's played all of 6 first-class matches, taken all of 10 wickets, doesn't have a proud record at the moment. Yes, he's rated very highly. Yes, he made a lot of noise as well when while playing in one of the first-class matches. He did trouble Alistair Cook on a couple of occasions in an over. In fact, I remember. Yes, all of that has happened. But then you're talking about Indian conditions, you're talking about this Indian team which does come with, let's say, at least on paper, you give them a little more chance or you sort of, give them the advantage, let's say, when you're doing an on-paper comparison, let's say, with this depleted Indian batting as well as it is at the moment, even then you'll back them to be able to counter these guys far more comfortably and not be too bogged down and be thinking about matchups. You work to your strengths. Don't be looking at the opposition 11 too much, is what, if I were in that Indian camp, that would be my message, let's say, or that would be my thought.
My point is you can have your cake and eat it too, because if you really want to accommodate all these batters, then you could potentially drop a pacer. You're already seeing England play with one pacer. You might not want to actually do that, but if you're going to be serving up a gadda, then the match is going to be done in 3 days. It hardly matters. You could potentially drop a pacer and bring in an additional pure batter. I'm just saying it's something they can do, because already you've got Ashwin and Akshar in the team. If you bring in Kuldeep, who's a one pure bowler,
I just feel, I
it's
think
possible.
With that inspired fell Shane of Jasprit Bumrah that we saw, and the fact that, you don't want to be caught, let's say. And this Indian team, yes, were, caught out of options and ideas at one point. At least there's this one spell you can really rejoice as far as that England second innings is concerned, where Jasprit Bumrah was really making the ball talk and offering you a lot of variety, let's say. So just from that variety standpoint, and I think...
I'm not saying drop Bumrah, I'm saying drop Siraj.
Siraj, again, I think I'm just going by the 11, let's say, that we already made, in which you already were looking at a scenario where there is a Jasprit Bumrah and you were looking at 3 other spinners.
Yeah. So I'm saying go with that 11. Go with that 11. That
But
11, if you go with, then you're playing the additional batters. You're playing two new right-handers who could potentially counter the off-spin. I'm just saying, I'm saying you could go with it. Now, suddenly, it seems like a sensible option. It's an avenue. For all you know, all of this talk might be for naught, and they might just very well just say, you know what, we're going to make two changes anyway. We'll bring in a batter and we'll bring in an all-rounder. That could very well be what happens because, again, this team does tend to stick to what works. And what is working for them right now is having 9 batters, including their all-rounders. So you might very well just swap in a like-for-like all-rounder. Could. But again, with 2 off-spinners there, full off-spinners, and again, considering how the kind of history that India have of making debutant spinners look like world beaters in home conditions, I'm just saying it wouldn't be the worst option in the world to consider. But, I mean, that's what we feel about it, and it's a very different thing what actually happens. We'll know in a couple of days.
Yeah. We'll just wrap things up over here. In case you're joining us right now, very quickly, we will let you know. And of course, you would have read the caption by now. But it turns out that injury does mean that Jack Leach will not be taking further part in the second test match now. First test match, yes, it was a pleasant surprise, let's say, to see him bowl in the second innings. Whether or not, his series is over or not, that we're not commenting on at the moment. We have no information about that. But for now, we're getting to know that the second test match, he's ruled out. Of course, an official confirmation is yet to come from the English camp, but credible reports telling Sports Today at the moment that he's ruled out. So you can expect, let's say, somebody like a Shoaib Bashir to be making a debut, unless, of course, there are other ideas that Baz and Stokes have at the moment. Can they play 2 pacers? I doubt if that's going to happen. So yeah, but everything is possible. You don't know what to expect in Hyderabad. There is a press conference to look forward to.
Vizag.
And tomorrow may well be the day where you actually get a closer look as far as the pitch is concerned. What do the captains make of it? The coaches make of it? All of that will follow tomorrow. Stay tuned. Tap that bell so that you get all of those updates. For now, Shane and I will take your leave. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.